Liberia as a country has gone through ancient struggles of land even before the coming of free black slaves. Land acquisition and preservation are still major problems in Liberia in spite of the passage of the new Land Rights Act by the legislature and subsequent signing into law by President George Weah in 2018.
Our people now will own their land, they will respect the rules and guidelines surrounding the land, and make sure that they bring economic dividend to a generation in this country. So today, they're going to be, I think, my second son, which is important, and I'm glad. I can only say to God be the glory that it happened on our gavel. We are hoping to make sure that other instruments that's important for the growth of this country and our people to be sound. We will do everything the Liberian people to get the benefit of what life is all about. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Today, rural dwellers, land experts, and international partners converge in the port city of Buchanan, Bassa County to evaluate progress made and challenges on the new Land Rights Act. It has been 3 years now since that law was passed, following immense pressure from civil society organizations and land rights actors. Welcome to this package on the National Land Conference, co-organized by the multi-actor platform on land governance and responsible agricultural investment in Liberia MAP. The Buchanan National Land Conference background August 6, 2020, when the multi-actor platform, along with the Liberia Land Authority and other partners, convened to brainstorm Liberia's land process.
We have come here, if you ask me why, I will tell you for 3 basic reasons. One, what have we achieved since 2018? So we take a stop, we look back. What is it that we have achieved since 2018? 2, where are the challenges? Where are we stuck? What are the problems? So we can discuss and identify them. And 3, so we can fast track the implementation of the law. But let me also point out that when the president signed, the same day, the president signed the land rights law in 2018, the president signed another important legislation, and that was the Local Government Act. So in one day, the government took 2 major decisions that should change the governance architecture of Liberia. One, that communities who have never owned land will now own land as of that passage. 2, that this centralized administration that many of us grew up into will begin to be decentralized.
Liberia is all we have. You can get angry, but focus on what your country will benefit or what you can do for your country. So we converge here today on this national convocation. As we congregate here today, I want to use this time to greet and welcome all of you on behalf of Grand Bassa leadership and the hospitable people of Grand Bassa County.
Working hand in hand is the only way that we can get better results for the future. And the EU fully supports the vision that the Land Authority has for implementing the Land Rights Act. I wish to therefore congratulate the organizers and everyone present here today for the efforts you have done over the past years and for the efforts that you wish to put in the future to implement this Land Rights Act and all other land-related regulations and legislation in Liberia.
Realizing that the National Land Conference wouldn't have been better without civil society groupings, the CSO head representative thinks Liberia's land crisis is becoming a rainbow for all parties.
We were able to develop a gender integration strategy. So that gender integration strategy is also going to help in the implementation of the Land Rights Act, looking at the roles of women, men, and youth. With the recognition of civil society organization, I want to highlight few critical issues that must be addressed in the implementation of the Land Rights Act. We are saying halt the insurance of these for travel certificate in accordance with Article 47 of the Land Rights Act. It calls for a vigorous process for validating and turning travel certificates into deed, and where these have been issued, the Liberian authorities should nullify those deeds. This is key of importance to halt and reverse elite land grab. Be very intentional in promoting women and youth land rights as far as titling and registration. We want to make sure at the end of the day we have title deeds for women and youth. And those titles include, according to the Land Rights Act, you can get land by being single, jointly, and collectively. So whatsoever claims, whether collective claim within customary land, we want to make sure that it's inclusive of women, men, and youth. Ensure proper and formal consultation and participation of customary communities and civil society organizations in the implementation of the Act. And also ensure that communities living in agro-business and logging concession areas are also entitled to ownership of their customary lands and are not excluded from the rights their fellow Liberians outside these areas are entitled to.
This law, today we're talking about how the full involvement of civil society groups. Mr. Yasia and his team actually did well. They push us. This law you see today, it was one of those laws that I've seen in Liberia, most especially presiding over as a committee chair, that included the voices of civil society, traditional leaders, and all actors in Liberia. You will all recall that upon the assumption of the office of the President of the Republic of Liberia in 2018, His Excellency Dr. George Manenwia committed that his administration will ensure necessary reform in public and private sector of the national life so that Liberians of all walks of life are fully involved in rebuilding our nation. Coming from the brutal civil war and having resiliently overcome one of the deadliest epidemics of our time, the Ebola virus, on October 19, 2018, His Excellency Dr. George Manenwia signed into law two landmark legislation having passed by the both houses: the Local Governance Act, the LGA, and the Land Rights Act, LRA, that have been described as progressive and revolutionary in ensuring that majority of Liberians who were on the fragile economic life will become active members of national development progress. By these two legislations, this government took a major decision to change the trajectories of our beloved country and put the people at the center of national development. This policy is clearly demonstrated in the proposed agenda for development and prosperity. The Local Government Act, which begins the process of developing power to the region, counties, districts, is also designed to support the implementation of Land Rights Act and all other government services, not only the national level, but also the county and districts level. Therefore, it was of no different that the government of Liberia, which prioritized the administration under the administration of President George Weah, has opened primarily out of Liberia, now brings direct access to land rights and active participation in the political, economic, and social cultural lives of over 3 million Liberians living in rural areas and working mostly in agricultural sector, producing food and cash crops.
Liberia Land Authority has a comprehensive mandate for land policy, land administration, and oversight of land management in Liberia. The chairman of the LRA speaks of immense progress on land matters in Liberia, unlike in past times.
Communities are getting title to their land, and there are processes that we have to go through before they can have title deed to the land. But with respect to using their land, yes, they have the right to use it, but the formalization is using land is not just having land, it's not just a title. It's contracting portion of your land to other investors of other people, third parties. And if you don't know your limit, the limit of your land, the means and bounds of your land, you may likely give a portion of a land that belongs to another community to an investor. That's why the law said the holding, the ownership, it should be formalized to the extent that the community should have deed. Those are the processes we are having since the passage of the law, and we are here. We have been here for the 3 days to assess how far we have gone, what are the shortcomings, the challenges, what are the strengths, and what additional recommendation we can make to government and also to the donor community and the implementing partners, so that henceforth we can increase the implementation activities so that the community can have faster title. To have a title to a land is just one thing. It becomes a property. But land should not only be a property. Land should be a capital. Land should be an asset. We expect the community, and we are going to work along with them, with other government agencies, with other partners, that when the community have their land as a property, they should turn that property into asset, and they should turn that asset into capital to the extent it's not just the deed they have or the paper, they should reap the benefit that the lands provide for any other community, whether in Europe or America, in other African countries. We have the responsibility to work with the community to get the benefit, the most benefit of their land. It will take time, therefore they should also be patient with us, because we don't have all the resources now, we don't have all the capacity, but with the involvement of the implementing partners and the donor community, assisting the government to implement this law, I think very soon, rather than later, they will start to get the benefit of the community.
Generally, the passage of the Land Rights Act improved legal protections for women and youth land rights. It guarantees equal access and protection concerning land ownership, use, and provides ownership to residential land within customary land parcel irrespective of gender.
Actually, my first time to attend this conference, having spent quite a bit of time in the process of drafting and validating the law, so it's quite refreshing, and to see the interest that has been generated and the support and even international community participation, quite refreshing. Believe me, there are not more than maybe 3-4 laws that are transformative as this law. I would dare to say that it will compete for maybe one of the two, if not the most transformative law that has been passed in the last 20 to maybe 50 years. Remember that what we are talking about is land, and all over the world, land is life. And we are talking about not just land, but we're talking about land ownership by a mass of the citizenry, who before then were really squatters in their own country and on the land that they did occupy and were using for farming. Just imagine. And this law came and changed all to provide secure land holding for average person, including our mothers and fathers in the rural area all over the country. Very, very transformative law. I actually, as a lawyer, I will be quick to encourage you and others to appreciate the fact that it takes a while to implement a law. This law is transformative, it is very good, and every good thing comes with some bit of processes and hard work. So the law has established the general principle giving land ownership, not just to individuals, but to communities. Because the law could not identify every individual Liberian to give you a piece of land. It said the land will now be owned by towns and communities that have been occupying the land. It means that there will have to be several processes by which members of the community will benefit from the land. There will be several processes where those members of the community will get their deeds so that they can use those parcels of land maybe to acquire credit and live it with their children. It will take a while. And this conference is quite timely because the entire focus is how do we move from celebrating the law passage to actualizing its promise so that people get the full benefit. From what I've listened to here, I think we are on the right track, and this government needs to be commended, encouraged, and supported to reach the final point.
Participants at the Buchanan National Land Conference adopted a resolution document which speaks to tactical steps aimed at easing the implementation of the Land Rights Act of Liberia.
Coordination and collaboration framework mechanism established between local government administrations and county land offices. G. That a ministerial committee be established to investigate the influx of illegal migrants into Liberia and propose measures to address the situation. H. Mainstream principles of good governance of land as established in various international, regional, and national framework and instruments such as the voluntary guidelines on the responsible governance of tenure of land, fisheries, and forests in the context of national food security. The principle on responsible investment in agriculture and food system. Convention on the elimination of all forms of violence against women. 6. Call on the civil society organization to improve facilitation of the formalization process by A. Strengthening engagement with local government and traditional leaders to secure their participation at all stages of the customary land formulation process. B. Streamlining the formation process to shorten its duration and reduce the cost, but doing so in compliance with the law. C. Facilitating continuous dialogue between the Community Forest Management Body, the CFMBs, Community Land Development and Management Committee, CLDMCs, and other community governance bodies to ensure collaboration and cooperation for effective land governance at the community level. D. Ensuring full compliance with the law during the formalization process, including participation of women, youth, and people living with disabilities, and equal representation on the CNDC. And E. Taking steps to improve working relationship with the Liberian Land Authority and strengthening coordination, collaboration, and information sharing within civil society. 7, call on all stakeholders to commit to advancing, securing, and strengthening the land rights of women, youth, and other traditionally marginalized groups, including A, directing resources to strengthening the capacity of women to actively and meaningfully participate in land governance at all levels. Researching and analyzing gender issues and power dynamics within the land sector in order to deepen understanding and strengthen programming and deliver to improve situation of women, youth, and other traditionally marginalized groups in the land sector.
Who owns Papa's land? We want to know who owns the land. Who owns Papa's land? We want to know. Papa's land, Papa's land. We want to know who owns the land. Who owns Papa's land? We want to know. Papa's land.